Black CEO mocked by billionaire white family 10 minutes later. She canceled their $900M deal. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's get back to the story. Something in the air changed. It was subtle at first, like a draft slipping under the gilded doors, but it spread fast, crawling across the ballroom until every whisper died mid-breath. The orchestra stumbled, strings squeaking in hesitation. Even the chandeliers seemed to hum quieter, as if afraid to sparkle too loud. Amara hadn't moved. She simply stood there, phone in hand, the screen's glow reflecting in her calm, unwavering eyes. Around her, the laughter that had once roared like fire now hissed into silence. The woman in pearls, Evelyn Rothwell, matriarch of the Rothwell banking dynasty, forced a brittle laugh. "Oh, come on, it was a joke. Don't look so offended." Her husband, cheeks still red from laughter, nudged her elbow, whispering, "Maybe stop talking." But she didn't. Privilege never knows when to be quiet. Amara turned slightly, her voice low but perfectly audible in the hush. "Funny thing about jokes," she said. "They usually say more about the person laughing." Evelyn froze. A ripple of discomfort spread through the crowd. Glasses clinked nervously. Someone coughed. Another cleared his throat, trying to resurrect normalcy. It didn't work. From the corner of the room, a waiter brushed past a column, the sound of his shoes echoing against the marble, a soft, deliberate click, 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 that felt louder than thunder. Amara's gaze followed the movement briefly, then lifted again to the crowd. "I wonder," she said softly, "how much laughter costs these days?" Her tone wasn't cruel. It was surgical, the kind of calm that makes arrogance sweat. Behind her, the grand windows reflected the entire scene, dozens of faces caught between wealth and fear, like a painting watching itself unravel. A younger woman whispered, "Who is she?" No one answered, but a man near the bar, already pale, muttered, "That's Amara Lewis, the Echelon CEO." The words fell like a match into gasoline. Evelyn blinked, confusion bleeding into dread. "Echelon?" she repeated, half laughing, half praying she'd misheard. Her husband turned toward Amara, voice trembling under forced charm. Of course, Miss Lewis, we've been meaning to." Amara raised a hand. He stopped mid-sentence. Silence again, heavy, exquisite. The scent of champagne had turned sour in the air. The chandelier's gold hue looked colder now, more metallic than warm. "Please," Amara said quietly, "don't ruin what's left of your evening." Her phone vibrated once, a silent notification only she saw. She read it, nodded slightly, then looked back at Evelyn. Evelyn tried to recover with another laugh. "Well, Miss Lewis, I suppose you do belong here after all." Amara's lips curved, but not in amusement. "I always did," she said. That was the first crack. A glass somewhere shattered, and no one moved to clean it up. Outside the ballroom's tall windows, snow began to fall over the city, soft, slow, inevitable. Inside, the air was still, charged with the quiet before a storm. And for the first time all night, every person in that golden room understood a truth that money could never buy. Power doesn't shout. It waits. To understand what was really unfolding beneath the chandeliers, you'd have to know who Amara Lewis was. Not the woman standing still in that pink silk gown, but the one the world rarely saw. At 42, she was the founder and CEO of Echelon Dynamics, a global tech conglomerate valued at over $68 billion. Her company powered the very systems that processed the Rothwell family's investments, the digital infrastructure, beneath their entire empire. And yet, not a single person in that room recognized her face. That wasn't an accident. Amara built her empire from the shadows, avoiding interviews, red carpets, magazine covers, all the things that turned power into spectacle. While other billionaires craved attention, she studied silence the way others studied markets. It became her greatest asset. Her journey began 2 decades earlier, in a neighborhood where broken streetlights outnumbered working ones. She was raised by her grandmother, a housekeeper who came home every night with cracked hands and stories about dignity, not as a privilege, but a discipline. She taught me that silence is not weakness, Amara would later say in one rare interview. It's the sound of focus. That focus carried her through every rejection letter, every boardroom where her ideas were stolen and repitched by men who'd once called her kiddo. She learned to build systems no one could take from her code, infrastructure, networks that spoke a universal language, control. By 30, she'd launched Echelon's first platform, an AI security network that redefined global banking integrity. Within a decade, her algorithms were securing everything from military contracts to Fortune 500 assets. By 40, she was controlling the data pipelines of entire economies quietly, efficiently, invisibly. And that was exactly why the Rothwell family wanted her. Their legacy bank, Rothwell Capital, was collapsing under hidden debt. They needed Echelon's technology and her name to stabilize a $900 million merger deal that would keep their empire from crumbling. They'd spent months courting her through lawyers and intermediaries, never realizing that the woman they were trying to impress had already seen their balance sheets and their desperation. But Amara had agreed to meet them anyway. Not to save them, to watch them. She wanted to see what people did when they thought she was powerless. Now, standing in their ballroom, dripping with wealth and arrogance, she finally had her answer. Around her, the laughter had vanished, replaced by the hush of people realizing they'd made a catastrophic mistake. Evelyn Rothwell's diamond earrings glinted like warning lights, expensive and useless. Her husband's smile had shrunk to a trembling line. They'd spent generations thinking their money bought immunity. They were about to learn it only bought delay. Amara looked down at her phone again, one new message. It read simply, "Board ready for confirmation. Proceed?" Her thumb hovered over the screen. Outside, the snow kept falling slow, deliberate, unstoppable. Inside, beneath the chandeliers, time held its breath. The phone was still glowing in her hand, screen bright against the dimmed chandeliers. No one dared to move. Not Evelyn Rothwell, frozen mid-breath. Not the waiters, gripping their trays as if the air itself might shatter. Amara's thumb slid across the glass, one silent command. Her assistant's name appeared on screen. Lena Patel, Echelon Dynamics, Chief Operations Officer. "Lena," Amara said, her tone barely above a whisper. But in the marble hall, that whisper carried like thunder. "Ma'am," came the instant reply. Lena was somewhere 50 floors above the city, in Echelon's glass headquarters, a place where every wall pulsed with data, decisions, and silence. "Proceed with the directive," Amara said. A pause, then the voice on the other end, steady, professional, ready. "Confirm. Terminate Rothwell Capital acquisition, freeze pending transfers, revoke data licensing." Evelyn blinked, her expression twisting. "Wait, what did she just say?" Amara met her eyes as if addressing a child. "Cancel everything," she said clearly. The room gasped. It wasn't loud, but collective, a wave of disbelief that rippled through silk and sequins and champagne. On the other end of the call, Lena didn't hesitate. "Confirm, Miss Lewis." Sequence initiated. From that moment, a silent chain reaction began. Somewhere across the city, a cluster of servers blinked red. Encrypted commands shot through Echelon's internal grid, bypassing every firewall the Rothwells had built around their empire. Contracts, once signed and sealed, began dissolving line by line, digital ink evaporating from shared drives. Inside the ballroom, the orchestra stopped completely. A violinist lowered her bow, watching in confusion as a man at the bar stared down at his phone. Notifications were flashing. Echelon withdraws from Rothwell Capital deal. Effective immediately. Evelyn's husband fumbled for his own device. This can't be right," he stammered. "It's a glitch, a misunderstanding." Amara slipped her phone back into her clutch. Every motion, deliberate, surgical. "Nothing about this is a misunderstanding," she said. Evelyn's voice cracked. You can't just walk away from a $900 million deal." Amara's eyes softened almost kindly. "Then you should have treated $900 million with more respect." That, writer oneable. Around them, the crowd was transforming posture by posture, face by face, from spectators to witnesses. Even the chandeliers seemed colder now, their light reflecting the chill settling over the Rothwell dynasty. One of the younger heirs, red-haired and nervous, stepped forward. "Miss Lewis, please, we can fix this." "It was a joke. My mother didn't mean—" "Your mother meant every word," Amara interrupted gently. "And so did I." She turned toward the exit. The marble echoed beneath her heels, slow, precise, the kind of sound that follows you into your conscience. With every step, the room felt smaller, like the air itself was contracting under the weight of consequence. Before she reached the door, she paused. The city's reflections shimmered in the ballroom glass snow, falling against steel and gold. Without turning, she said quietly, "Some debts aren't paid in money, they're paid in memory." And then she walked out, leaving behind a ballroom of billionaires who just learned the price of underestimating her. The fallout didn't come with explosions or screams. It came with notifications. In less than 90 seconds, the Rothwell family's empire began to disintegrate quietly, efficiently, without mercy. Somewhere high above the Chicago skyline, in Echelon Dynamics' command center, screens flickered with cascading alerts. Lena Patel stood before a wall of holographic dashboards, her reflection shimmering across billions of dollars in motion. "Confirming termination sequence," she said to her team. "Execute phase 1, withdrawal phase 2, freeze." Her analysts moved in synchronized precision. No raised voices, no chaos. Just the clean rhythm of trained professionals dismantling a dynasty. Across the ballroom, phones buzzed like a hive disturbed. Investors, journalists, and Rothwell board members were all getting the same alert. Echelon Dynamics officially withdraws from Rothwell Capital's merger, pending transactions suspended. The air thickened with panic disguised as politeness. Men in tuxedos whispered into phones. Women in couture clutched handbags like life rafts. Every face turned toward Evelyn, who was now pale, her lipstick a trembling red slash. Her husband barked at his assistant, "Get the board on the line," but his voice broke halfway through. The call didn't go through the Echelon server gate, had already revoked access. Outside the ballroom, news traveled faster than sound. Within 5 minutes, financial networks were flashing red tickers across the bottom of their screens. Rothwell Capital stock halted. Merger deal collapses. Market in freefall. In Echelon's headquarters, Lena watched as automated systems redirected millions in liquid assets toward a charity account labeled Project Dawn Women in Tech Foundation. Her assistant turned. "Ma'am, the redistribution order?" "Authorized," Lena replied. "Miss Lewis's instruction dignity fund first." Back in the ballroom, Evelyn staggered to a chair. The room she once ruled now felt like a courtroom. She tried to laugh, but the sound came out hollow, splintered. "You can't destroy us over a misunderstanding." From the far side of the room, one of the reporters, a woman who'd recorded the insult moments earlier, spoke softly. "It wasn't a misunderstanding, Mrs. Rothwell. We all heard you." The crowd shifted again, a quiet realignment of moral gravity. Evelyn's son grabbed his phone, scrolling in disbelief. "Mom, our accounts? What about them? They're locked." It is remembered. The orchestra, unsure what to do, had fallen completely silent. The conductor lowered his baton, eyes flicking between the stunned family and the guests pretending not to stare. Even the chandeliers seemed dimmer now, their light dulled by embarrassment. Outside, under the snowfall, a line of black cars waited Echelon security detail, not chauffeurs. Amara was already seated inside one of them, her profile illuminated by the city lights. Lena's voice came through her earpiece. "Phase 3 complete, ma'am. Rothwell Capital frozen across all partner exchanges." "Good," Amara said quietly. "Public statement?" She watched the snow swirl beyond the tinted glass. "No. Let them speak first. The truth will echo louder when they try to deny it." Her driver waited for a signal. "Where to, Miss Lewis?" Amara's eyes stayed on the falling snow-white flakes dissolving on dark streets. "Home," she said softly. "They've learned enough for one night." As the car pulled away, the ballroom behind her flickered through the rear window, a golden cage collapsing in slow motion. And somewhere inside that crumbling illusion, Evelyn Rothwell was still trying to call her lawyers, not realizing that even the signal she depended on ran through Amara's network. Power didn't vanish that night, it just changed owners. By dawn, the story had already circled the planet. A single 30-second video, grainy, shaky, filmed by a guest, had detonated across every platform on Earth. The headline was simple: merciless. Billionaire family mocks black CEO loses $900M deal in real time. Clipped laughter. A racial slur. Then a woman's calm voice saying, "Cancel everything." No shouting, no revenge music, just consequence. framed in 1080p. Within hours, hashtags multiplied like sparks. Number respect has no price. Number echelon effect. Number black excellence. Unbothered. News anchors dissected the footage in slow motion. Psychologists were invited to analyze the composure gap, how Amara's silence carried more authority than all the Rothwell's money combined. Commentators called it the most expensive joke in American history. By mid-morning, Rothwell Capital's market value had plummeted 32%. Their stock halted twice before regulators intervened. Their lawyers released a statement calling it a regrettable misunderstanding. But the internet had already decided. Some apologies arrived past bankruptcy. Clips of Amara standing in the ballroom became digital folklore, slowed, remixed, underscored with cinematic strings. Teenagers on TikTok mimed her line, "You should choose your words carefully." And 7-1-4-2 no. Memes compared her gaze to storm clouds over marble. Within 12 hours, Amara Lewis had become both myth and mirror, a reflection of every person ever underestimated in a polished room. Meanwhile, Evelyn Rothwell couldn't leave her penthouse. Reporters had camped outside. Drones hovered like judgment above her glass balcony. Every network wanted her statement, but she had none. She'd built her power on visibility, and now visibility was the punishment. In contrast, Amara said nothing. No interviews, no press conference, no tweet. Echelon Dynamics released only one line on its official site. "Our partnerships reflect our values. Dignity is non-negotiable." That single sentence traveled faster than the scandal itself. Fortune magazine replaced Evelyn's photo with Amara's. Financial outlets called her the quiet architect of accountability. It is martyr. And the Backton. Universities reached out, asking her to speak about leadership. She declined them all. Instead, Amara spent that morning in her home office, minimalist, silent, the skyline glowing beyond the glass. Her phone buzzed nonstop, but she ignored it. On her desk sat a single photo. Her grandmother, hands rough, smile soft. She whispered to it, almost absent-mindedly, "We made it, Grandma. Not just out, but above." Outside her window, a billboard that once bore the Rothwell Bank logo now displayed a new message. Bought overnight by Echelon's media division. Power is not inherited. It's earned. And as the city woke beneath her, the fallout continued. Banks auditing their diversity policies, companies rewriting codes of conduct, people whispering her name like an emblem. For the first time in years, the world wasn't just talking about wealth. It was talking about worth. And somewhere in that quiet shift between outrage and awe, Amara Lewis stopped being a victim of that night. She became the symbol of what happens when dignity finally collects its debt. 3 days later, the Rothwell estate looked less like a mansion and more like a museum of what used to be power. Curtains drawn, cameras banned, lawyers pacing marble floors that no longer gleamed. Evelyn Rothwell hadn't slept. The tabloids called her the woman who laughed at 900 million. Her husband had resigned from 3 boards in 48 hours. Her children had left the city under the guise of privacy. And now, she was waiting for the one woman no apology could reach. When Amara arrived, she didn't bring a camera crew or security detail. Just a single black notebook tucked under her arm and the kind of silence that fills every corner of a room before it speaks. Evelyn rose from the couch, voice trembling. "Miss Lewis, I didn't think you'd come." Amara studied her, expression unreadable. "You asked for a meeting." "I did. I needed to explain." Amara raised a hand gently. "You've spent a lifetime explaining. Maybe today, you should listen." The words landed without volume, just wait. Evelyn nodded, tears already burning behind mascara. "I was angry, embarrassed. I said something I shouldn't have. I never meant for it to." "To be recorded?" Amara finished softly. Evelyn looked away. The silence stretched between them long enough for the ticking of a distant clock to sound like judgment. Amara walked slowly across the room, fingertips brushing the back of a velvet chair. "You know what fascinates me, Mrs. Rothwell?" Evelyn didn't answer. "It's how people like you think apologies can rebuild what arrogance burned down. Is right down a gold Brad, and lows in like verse, and in like the grain maddle getter works." Evelyn swallowed hard. "What do you want from me?" Amara stopped beside the window, the city skyline reflecting in the glass behind her. "Nothing. I already took back what was mine. But the deal was never about money," Amara said. "It was a test of character. You failed spectacularly. Evelyn sank into the couch, trembling hands gripping the edge of her dress. Please, my employees, the family's hundreds will lose their jobs. Amara's gaze softened for the first time. Then maybe this is your chance to do something you've never done before. Help someone without expecting applause. Evelyn blinked. You're not going to destroy us completely? I don't need to, Amara said, her voice calm as dusk. You're doing it yourselves. She placed the black notebook on the coffee table. Inside were documents, the transfer of a small Rothwell property to the Dignity Fund, Echelon's new philanthropic arm. It's a symbolic gesture, Amara said. The building you once used for your private club, it'll be converted into a community innovation hub. For girls who look like the one you mocked. Evelyn's lip quivered. Why give it back? Because revenge is temporary, Amara said. Legacy isn't. The older woman covered her face with shaking hands. I don't expect forgiveness, she whispered. Good, Amara said gently. Then you'll remember this lesson longer. She turned to leave. As she reached the doorway, Evelyn's voice broke the silence one last time. Miss Lewis, what do I tell people? Amara paused, hand on the doorframe. Tell them the truth, she said. That you met a woman who didn't raise her voice and still took your world apart. This no, Dino, variant the ones of Salm. The door closed behind her with a quiet finality, softer than a slam, sharper than any insult ever thrown. And for the first time in her life, Evelyn Rothwell sat in a room where silence didn't mean superiority. It meant consequence. Night returned to the city like a confession. Slow, honest, unafraid. The streets glowed under snow and amber light, every flake tracing a story that no one could rewrite anymore. In the distance, the new Dignity Hub tower shimmered, its black and gold logo pulsing softly against the skyline. It didn't look like revenge. It looked like arrival. From her penthouse window, Amara Lewis stood watching. No champagne, no celebration, no crowd. Just the hum of quiet victory, the kind that doesn't need witnesses to be real. Behind her, the news played softly on mute. Headlines scrolled across the screen. Rothwell family declares bankruptcy. Echelon Dynamics named Most Influential Company of the Year. The woman who changed corporate America without raising her voice. But Amara didn't turn to look. She'd seen enough of noise pretending to be importance. Her assistant, Lena, entered quietly. The board wants you to attend the Global Equity Forum next week, she said. They're calling it the Lewis Principle Leadership Through Restraint. Amara smiled faintly. Interesting. They name it only after they've learned it the hard way. Should I confirm your attendance? Amara shook her head. No speeches, just results. Let the work speak. When Lena left, Amara crossed the room and opened her grandmother's old wooden box, the one she kept on the windowsill. Inside lay a folded church program, brittle with age, and a note written in faded ink. Baby, when they won't give you a seat at the table, build your own and make it stronger. She traced the handwriting with her thumb. I built it, Grandma, she whispered, and I made sure everyone eats. Outside, the city moved like a living organism, people walking faster, talking louder, dreaming bigger, and among them were faces that looked like hers, young, determined, no longer asking for permission to belong. Down on 12th Street, a mural was being finished by a group of students from the first Dignity Hub. It showed Amara's silhouette standing between skyscrapers, hands at her sides, eyes lifted toward the horizon. Below it, a single quote stretched across the brick. Dignity doesn't whisper, it waits. There follows as parents is like Fran. By morning it would be all over the internet again, not as a scandal, but as scripture. People weren't just reposting a video anymore. They were reposting belief. Across town, in a modest apartment filled with unopened boxes, Evelyn Rothwell watched the same mural on television. She sat alone, her reflection ghosted against the glass. Her voice trembled when she whispered, She didn't destroy me. She replaced me. And for the first time, Evelyn understood the real punishment wasn't ruin. It was irrelevance. Back at the penthouse, Amara closed the window. The snow kept falling, softer now, like a curtain closing on an act that didn't need applause. She poured herself a glass of water, glanced at her reflection, and said quietly, That's enough. Then she sat, opened her laptop, and typed an email not to investors or lawyers, but to the new directors of the Dignity Hubs. Her subject line read, Next phase expansion to Nairobi and Sao Paulo. Below it, she wrote, "Let's turn every insult into infrastructure, every closed door into curriculum, every silence into signal." She hit send. The city lights flickered back at her, as if responding. For a moment, she let herself breathe, not the sharp inhale of defense, but the deep, steady rhythm of someone finally at peace. Outside, the Dignity Hub's rooftop lights formed a pattern that could be seen from miles away, a glowing outline of Africa, traced in gold. It wasn't planned. It just happened like the universe, drawing a thank you note in the language of light. And somewhere between the snowfall and the skyline, the voiceover of the story finally found its closing words. They mocked her color. They mocked her calm. They mocked her silence. But silence is what rewrites history. Because real power doesn't perform, it prevails. The camera would pull back now, wide-shot the city shimmering below. The woman at the window, a silhouette of composure and consequence. A story that began with humiliation ends not in revenge, but in grace.